You've been told that freedom is choice, that you're free because you can think, decide, believe. But what if that freedom was part of the illusion? What if the thoughts in your mind, the emotions that stir your heart, even the desires that move you were never truly your own? For centuries, the mystics taught that ignorance isn't just blindness. It's the energy that keeps humanity asleep. They spoke of the Archons, symbols of illusion, architects of deception, weaving thought patterns like invisible webs that convince you the cage is the sky and the chain is your reflection. But here's what was buried through time, a truth sharp enough to cut through illusion and shatter inversion itself. The Archons are not gods. They are distortions of perception. Their greatest power lies in our forgetting, but their greatest fear is that you'll finally see not only what they represent, but who you truly are. The Gnostics, those early seekers of divine knowledge, discovered something extraordinary. They understood that the human soul carries a divine frequency the Archons could never imitate, a spark of pure, uncreated light. Hidden within their teachings was a method, a sacred way of perception that could dissolve the Archons' power completely. This wasn't about worship or belief. It was about awakening awareness itself, remembering what you truly are beneath the illusory hypnosis of the world. You're not about to hear just another tale of ancient beings or lost scriptures. What you're about to discover is the method the Archons fear most, the inner science of freeing your perception. In this video, we'll uncover what these forces truly represent, how they influence the human mind, and why your attention and emotion are the only lifeblood they have. We'll also delve into the forgotten Gnostic texts that reveal how to see through the Archon's illusion, and how that very awareness becomes the ultimate act of spiritual liberation. By the end, you won't just understand why this knowledge was buried. You'll witness what happens when illusion collapses and the light within finally awakens. To truly grasp the method the Archons fear most, we have to trace the story back, before religion, before dogma, before history was reshaped to veil the deeper truth. The story begins in the first centuries after Christ, when small groups of seekers gathered in secret caves and desert monasteries, hidden away from the religious order of the time. They called themselves Gnostikoi, those who know. Their knowledge was not learned from priests or kings. It was remembered. They believed the material world was not the final truth, but a veil, a distortion cast by an imperfect creator known as the Demiurge or Yaldabaoth. This being and the forces that served him, the Archons, were not ultimate destroyers, but cosmic imposters. They posed as gods, convincing souls that the world of limitation, suffering, and fear was the only reality. To the Gnostics, the universe was a vast drama between the higher realms of light and the counterfeit world of illusion. Humanity was caught in between, divine in origin, yet asleep inside a dream shaped by lesser powers. In the Gospel of Mary, the Savior tells his followers that matter gives birth to a passion that has no equal, a fever that arises when the soul forgets its origin. The Archons, these architects of distraction, amplify that passion. They weave desire and fear into a net so fine that even the wise become entangled. Yet the Savior's voice breaks through the illusion with a single command: be courageous. For courage, he said, is the anchor of the soul amid the storms of matter. But here's where the story becomes dangerous and why it was silenced. The Gnostics did not teach blind faith. They didn't preach obedience to external authority. They taught direct revelation. They claimed that within every person burns a fragment of the divine source, what they called the divine spark. To awaken that spark is to dissolve the Archon's influence. Because once you remember your origin in the light, the illusion loses its power. Imagine for a moment what that means. If every human carried an uncorrupted link to the divine, then no priest, emperor, or institution could dictate your path to God. That single idea is the reason this knowledge was suppressed. Scrolls were hidden, teachers were pursued and silenced, and by the 4th century, the Gnostic voice was almost erased from history. But not completely. In 1945, in the sands of Nag Hammadi, Egypt, a sealed jar was unearthed, inside a library buried for 1,600 years. There, among texts like the Gospel of Thomas, the Apocryphon of John, and the Sophia of Jesus Christ, were fragments of a cosmic map, a guide for transcending the Archons' illusion. They described how these forces draw strength from human confusion and fear, how they mirror thought and emotion to keep us distracted. And they revealed a method to overcome them, not to fight them, but simply to remember. Not remembering in the usual sense, but a mystical recognition, a sudden inner knowing that pierces the veil of falsehood and reconnects you to the source. You know those moments when you hear something and can't quite explain why, but deep down you feel it's true. That's inner knowing, what the Gnostics called awakening your inner spark. And that awakening is what the Archons fear most, because the moment you truly see, it doesn't just dissolve the structure of deception, it opens your entire perception of reality itself. If the Archons fear anything, it isn't weapons, rituals, or rebellion, it's clarity and inner knowing. Because clarity doesn't just burn through their shadow, it burns through the one that clouds your perception. According to the Gnostics, the Archons are not physical monsters hiding in some corner of the universe. They are distortions of consciousness, echoes born when divine light entered the realm of matter and fragmented. They exist in the unseen layers of thought, emotion, and energy, and like reflections without substance, they are unable to exist on their own. They depend on awareness that has forgotten itself. What sustains them? Your attention, your fear, your unconscious reaction to illusion. The Archons manipulate through imitation. They copy reality but lack the creative spark of the divine. They are mimics, masters of counterfeit light. When you feel the pull of fear, anger, judgment, or despair, it's not always you who feels it. It's the archonic current, tugging at the strings of the psyche, drawing strength from the reaction it creates. They whisper through collective belief, in media, in systems, in endless conflict. The Gospel of Mary describes this as the kingdom of the flesh, a world where false powers stir desire and confusion until the soul forgets its own light. These forces aren't random. They are deliberate distortions, reflections of the Archon's imitation of creation itself. They wear masks of authority and certainty, disguising limitation as logic and distraction as progress. Their influence doesn't come from force, but from forgetting. Because when you forget what you are, pure divine awareness, unbound by form, you fall asleep inside their dream. And yet, the Gnostics discovered a weakness. The Archons cannot create. They can only replicate. They can't generate light, only reflect it, distort it, invert it, and drain it, just as they did with the teachings of Jesus. That means every moment you remember the source of your own light, their illusion flickers. Every breath taken in awareness, every thought seen clearly, withdraws the energy that sustains them. In the Apocryphon of John, the Savior tells John that humanity was created from a spark of the divine realm, hidden within the shell of matter, so that even the Archons could not destroy it. It was planted as a safeguard, a code that could never be deleted. That code is awareness itself. You can feel it when you step beyond the grip of your thoughts, that quiet, alert presence behind the noise. That's the real you, because awareness cannot be controlled. It cannot be owned, manipulated, or consumed. It just is. The Gnostics taught that when the Archons tried to dominate the soul, they used fear as the key. But when a human being looked inward, when they faced fear with stillness, when they turned awareness upon the darkness, the illusion collapsed like smoke in sunlight. That was the Gnostic method. not worship, but perception shifting, seeing through instead of fighting against, realizing that darkness holds power only when unseen. This is why the Archons draw energy from fear, because fear keeps your focus outward, lost in the maze of their false world. But the moment you turn your gaze inward, something awakens. The Gnostics describe this as anamnesis, the sacred act of remembering. When you remember, you stop reacting to shadows as if they were real. You stop energizing the illusion, and the Archons, deprived of attention, lose their pull. They fear this remembrance more than anything, because it doesn't just remove their influence, it renders them irrelevant. So the question becomes, how do you cultivate this remembrance in a world built to make you react and forget? How do you hold awareness in the midst of chaos, deception, and fear? The answer lies not in escape, but in transformation, alchemizing every moment of darkness into light. The Archons, according to ancient texts, are not dissolved by violence. They dissolve through recognition. And yet, most people spend their lives trying to fight illusions instead of seeing through them. This is why the Archons have had the upper hand for so long. They don't need to enslave humanity by chains or armies. They simply keep the mind at war with itself. Every argument, every outrage to a new story, every division, every judgment becomes a subtle offering of energy to their pattern of influence. In the Hypostasis of the Archons, the Gnostics describe these forces as powers that rule over the mind, taking delight in chaos and confusion. They imitate reality. They project images. They stir emotion. They want you reactive, divided, and asleep. The ancient Gnostics spoke of 7 powers that bind the soul, not demons, but states of mind. Darkness, desire, ignorance, death's allure, the pull of flesh, false wisdom, and wrathful pride. Each distorts your vision, whispering, "This is who you are." But they lie. Freedom comes not by fighting them, but by seeing through them, letting awareness outshine the shadow. But hidden within that same text is their weakness, a simple truth so powerful it borders on cosmic revelation. They cannot stand before the vision of the light. This vision of the light isn't a mystical beam from heaven. It's awareness itself, pure, unclouded consciousness that looks upon illusion without fear. When you see manipulation for what it is, the energy behind it collapses. Think of it this way. Darkness isn't a force of its own. It's simply the absence of light. And the moment the light is switched on, darkness has nowhere to exist. The Gnostic method is that light, the act of seeing through the lie instead of fighting with it. This is why Jesus, in the Gospel of Thomas, says, "When you make the two one, when you make the inner as the outer and the outer as the inner, then you will enter the kingdom." The Gnostics weren't waiting for heaven after death. They were uncovering it within consciousness itself. They realized the kingdom was the state of awareness untouched by illusion. And that awareness, your awareness, is the one thing the Archons can't reach. Their influence depends on polarity. They thrive when you hate them, fear them, or worship them. But when you see them as part of a dream, a distortion within the great field of consciousness, they lose substance. That is your power. This is why the ancient teachers described the world as Maya, the illusion of separation. It's not that the world is fake, but that perception itself becomes distorted. The Archons filter awareness, whispering, "This is all there is. You are small, you are powerless, but you are not. You are the awareness that perceives even the whisper. You are the one who sees." The Archons fear that you might remember this, that you might stop fighting shadows and start shining light, because once you do, their architecture of illusion begins to dissolve. The systems they built, the collective narratives, the social mechanisms, even your own inner critic, start to lose grip. They draw energy from identification, and awareness severs that cord. The Gnostics called this gnosis, not belief, but direct knowing. It isn't taught, it's experienced. It's the quiet recognition that nothing external has power over your inner state. This is why, for the Gnostics, salvation wasn't about being saved by an external savior. It was about becoming conscious of the divine presence already within, the living connection to the source. When that connection is felt, even briefly, you become untouchable. The Archons may still exist, but they can no longer rule you, because you no longer live in their dream. You awaken within it. And that moment isn't just liberation. It's the instant you remember who you truly are, the moment the Archons fear most. The Gnostics never meant for this knowledge to stay as mere philosophy, or for their scriptures to be misinterpreted, or worse, inverted. They called it living knowledge, wisdom that only awakens when it's lived, breathed, and remembered in real time. So how do you apply what you've just heard? How do you begin to break the Archon's influence here and now? The first step is simple, and it's also the hardest. You must see, not with your eyes, but with awareness itself. Every thought that arises, every emotion that moves through you, simply notice it. Don't push it away, don't chase it. Don't name it good or bad. Just see. This act of witnessing is not passive. It's the Gnostic sword. When you observe a thought without identifying with it, you reclaim the energy that once sustained the illusion. They survive on unconscious reaction, but awareness cuts the line. The Saviour's words to Mary echo here. Be courageous in the presence of the different forms of nature. Courage isn't defiance, it's clarity held steady. To be courageous, in the Gnostic sense, is to face every shadow of thought and say, you have no power but the one I give you. Next time fear arises, try this. Pause. Feel where it lives in your body. Don't resist it, illuminate it. Say inwardly, I see you. That's it. One simple sentence that dissolves illusion faster than any prayer of resistance. Because when you can look directly at fear without collapsing into it, the illusion shatters, the distortion fades. The Gnostics called this remembering the light. It's not about escaping the world, it's about awakening within it. When you meet darkness with awareness, you turn the battlefield into a sanctuary. You begin to sense something extraordinary, that everything, even your pain, your confusion, your shadow, can become a doorway back to the source. Every emotion becomes sacred fuel for awakening. So throughout your day, begin to notice the subtle moments when you lose presence, when anger grips you, when distraction pulls you, when you forget yourself in the noise. Each of those moments is a signal, a flicker that says, energy is being lost here. Don't judge it, use it. Return to stillness, return to light. This is the real Gnostic ritual. No temples, no incense, no chants required. The altar is not in a church, it is in your awareness. The prayer is your attention. And from this awareness flows an unshakable power. Compassion. When you stop energizing fear, love begins to radiate naturally. Not sentimental love, but luminous understanding. And that vibration is the one frequency illusion cannot mimic. It cannot exist where love is present. So practice daily. Notice the illusion. Remember who's watching. And choose light again and again. You'll feel the shift, subtle at first, then undeniable. The things that used to drain you will lose their weight. The noise of the world will soften, and you'll begin to sense a quiet strength emerging, not from outside, but from the spark within. That is gnosis in motion. And that is what the Archons fear most, a soul who remembers. If you're ready to take this awakening further, I've written a free ebook called Escaping the Illusion, a Gnostic guide to mastering reality. Inside, you'll uncover deeper methods for seeing through illusion and reclaiming your inner light. You can download it for free. The link is in the description. The Archons were never gods. They were echoes, distortions born from forgotten light. They thrive on blindness, but tremble before remembrance. And that's the paradox of their power. They exist only in the dark. The moment you turn toward the light of your own awareness, their structure begins to dissolve. You don't overcome the Archons by fighting them. You dissolve them by remembering who you are. Because when you awaken to the source within, no illusion can touch you. Not the false lights of this world, not the noise of fear, not even the weight of your past. This is the secret long obscured through time, that you could see through the illusion and realize you were never a prisoner, that the walls of the cage were made of thought, and the key has always been attention. Every time you choose awareness over reaction, truth over confusion, stillness over fear, you reclaim your divine inheritance. That's the Gnostic revolution, not a war of swords, but a quiet uprising of consciousness. You may not see it, but every moment you wake up within the dream, the collective illusion weakens. Each spark that remembers adds light to the whole. And that's what unsettles them most, the chain reaction of remembrance. So tonight, before you sleep, try this. Close your eyes, breathe, and say to yourself, I remember the light. Feel it behind your thoughts, beneath your emotions, silent, eternal, unshaken. That's the part of you nothing external can reach. That's the divine spark the Gnostics sought to preserve. The Archons want you distracted, afraid, and divided. But now you see their pattern. And awareness ends the pattern. You've just taken the first step toward remembering what the Gnostics called the pleroma, the fullness, the realm beyond illusion. And once you begin to see through their influence, there's no going back to sleep. If something in this video resonated with you, share your reflections in the comments below. Every insight adds light to the whole. Remember to like and subscribe to the Gnostic Eye as we explore each week the forgotten teachings, sacred texts, and inner pathways that lead beyond the illusion. Because the truth isn't something you find, it's something that awakens inside you. And when it does, you won't need logic or explanation. You'll simply know.